Ancient civilizations were not isolated worlds, but nodes in a vast prehistoric network. This video reveals 40 overlooked archaeological sites that demonstrate a sophisticated level of cultural exchange, fundamentally challenging our understanding of early human history. By the end, you will see a completely new map of our ancient past, one woven with threads of shared knowledge and innovation. How did a stone tool from one continent end up in a village on another? And what hidden language connects art separated by thousands of miles? What forgotten connection in our own history are we only just beginning to remember? The story of our connected world starts far earlier than most history books suggest. Deep in the Neolithic period, the first farming communities began to transform the human experience, settling the land and cultivating crops. But these were not isolated villages living in perfect solitude. They were the original nodes in a global network, actively seeking connection. The catalyst for this ancient web was often a simple, practical need. A village might have mastered the art of growing wheat, but it lacked a particular type of volcanic glass, obsidian, essential for creating the sharpest cutting tools. Another community, living near those volcanic flows, possessed an abundance of that very resource, but needed new strains of grain to feed its people. And so, the first trade routes were born, not as paved roads but as well-worn footpaths and coastal waterways, traveled for generations. This was not haphazard wandering. The distribution of exotic materials across vast distances reveals a deliberate, sustained effort to bridge cultures. Imagine a single piece of obsidian, quarried from a mountain in what is now Turkey, found thousands of miles away in a settlement in the Balkans. That single artifact represents an entire chain of communication, a handshake between distant worlds. It tells a story of shared knowledge, of navigating by stars and landmarks, of establishing protocols for safe passage and fair exchange. This foundational network set the stage for everything that followed, creating a tapestry of human interaction whose faint, resilient threads we are only now beginning to trace. So how do we actually see these ghostly networks? The evidence is not always a grand monument or a written treaty. It is a shell from a distant sea, nestled in the soil of an inland village. It is a tiny chip of stone whose chemical fingerprint points to a quarry 1,000 miles away. To uncover these connections, archaeologists act as both detectives and scientists. They begin with stratigraphy, the simple but powerful principle of reading the earth itself. Each layer of soil is a page in a history book, with the deepest layers holding the oldest stories. By carefully excavating and documenting these strata, experts can place artifacts and structures in a precise chronological order, building a timeline of human activity. But knowing when something happened is only half the story. The real magic begins with artifact analysis. A piece of pottery, decorated with a spiral pattern unique to one region, found intact in a settlement far beyond its expected range, speaks volumes. It is not just an object, it is a message. It tells us that ideas, and likely the people who carried them, were moving across the landscape. Similarly, finding marine shells or shark teeth deep in the heart of a continent reveals established trade routes that brought the coast to the interior. The detective work goes even deeper with techniques like isotopic analysis. This method allows researchers to read the chemical history locked inside a tooth or a bone. The elements in our food and water leave a distinct signature, a kind of geographical passport. By analyzing these signatures in ancient remains, scientists can determine if an individual grew up in one place and was buried in another, proving the movement of people, not just objects. When combined with comparative studies of art and architecture, where the same symbolic motif appears on two different continents, a compelling picture emerges. These diverse methodologies form a robust framework, allowing us to interpret these silent stones with confidence. They are the tools that let us listen to the whispers of the past. And with these tools in hand, we can now journey to the first group of sites where these ancient connections become undeniably clear. The whispers of those first trade routes lead us to a specific place, a small mound rising from the plains of what is now Iran. This is Tali-Bakun, a name that might not be famous, but whose story is fundamental. Here, archaeologists uncovered not just a village, but an enigmatic trading post buzzing with activity over 6,000 years ago. The ground yielded a stunning collection of intricately painted pottery. At first glance, these vessels seem local, but their designs tell a different story. The spirals and geometric patterns echo styles found hundreds of miles away in the emerging cities of Mesopotamia and even the distant Indus Valley. It was as if the potters of Tali-Bakun had access to a shared visual language, a catalogue of ideas flowing along ancient pathways, but the evidence goes deeper than style. Among the everyday items, researchers found something extraordinary: lapis lazuli. This deep blue stone, flecked with gold like a starry night, was not a local resource. Its only known source was quarries in faraway Afghanistan, a journey of immense difficulty. The presence of this luxury material in a modest settlement is a silent testament to the reach and sophistication of these early networks. It was not just practical goods being traded, but items of beauty and status, desired for their rarity and symbolic power. Scholars suggest Tali-Bakun was more than a passive recipient of foreign wares. It was a creative hub. Local artisans saw these exotic designs and materials, and they did not simply copy them. They blended them with their own traditions, creating a new, unique artistic voice. This was not just trade, it was the birthplace of innovation through connection. A community, seemingly small and isolated, was in fact a vibrant participant in a vast, intercontinental conversation. The discoveries at this one mound completely reshape our understanding of prehistoric life, proving that the drive to connect and create together is an ancient, powerful force in human history. Far to the west of Tali-Bakun, in what is now a vast and arid desert, lies a puzzle carved from stone. The megaliths of Nabta Playa rise from the sands of the Sahara, a collection of stone circles and aligned slabs that whisper of a deep, shared understanding of the cosmos. This site is not a grand city, but a ceremonial center built over 7,000 years ago by nomadic pastoralists. These were people on the move, following the rains with their herds. Yet they felt a compelling need to create a permanent mark, an observatory under the open sky. The precision of these stones is what captures the imagination. They are arranged to align with the rising and setting of the sun at the solstices, and likely with key stars. This was a sophisticated calendar, a way to mark the passing seasons and predict the coming of the life-giving rains. What is truly remarkable is that this knowledge did not exist in a vacuum. Similar astronomical principles were being explored at the same time, thousands of miles away, in places that would much later become sites like Stonehenge. This suggests a powerful idea that the human drive to comprehend the heavens was a widespread, perhaps interconnected, phenomenon. How could such complex ideas arise in two seemingly unconnected parts of the world? The evidence at Nabta Playa points to a culture of seasonal gathering. When the temporary lakes filled with water, different groups would converge here. They would not only share water and pasture but also knowledge. Around the hearths they would exchange stories of the stars, compare observations, and refine their understanding of the universe. The cattle bones and distinctive pottery found here are the physical remnants of these communal meetings. This was a university of the desert where the curriculum was written in the night sky. The legacy of this intellectual collaboration may stretch even further. The cosmological principles etched into the sands of Nabta Playa, the emphasis on celestial cycles and rebirth, appear to echo in the beliefs of ancient Egypt that flourished millennia later to the east. It is a compelling thread, hinting that the wisdom of the nomadic star watchers was absorbed and transformed, becoming a cornerstone for one of history's most iconic civilizations. This site demonstrates that the most valuable cargo traded along ancient routes was not always a material object. It was an idea. Beneath the quiet surface of a man-made lake in China, an entire city sleeps. This is Cheng, the Lion City, a place frozen in time when the valley was flooded in the 1950s. Its remarkable preservation underwater offers a crystal-clear window into a sophisticated maritime world. The city's grand archways and intricate stone carvings, visible to divers who explore its silent streets, tell a story of cultural fusion. Here, the classic dragon and phoenix motifs of Chinese tradition are found alongside artistic elements that echo the styles of ancient India. This was not a closed society, but a vibrant coastal hub where artistic languages blended seamlessly. The economic lifeblood of this cosmopolitan center flowed through a surprising medium cowrie shells. These small, glossy shells, discovered in great quantities at the site, were a universal currency across many ancient societies. Their presence here, so far from their tropical sources, is undeniable proof of economic networks that stretched across the seas, linking East Asia with the distant cultures of Southeast Asia. Imagine the grand plazas and temples now inhabited by fish, once bustling with traders from far-off lands. They would have exchanged not only goods like silks and spices, but also the very ideas that shaped their world. Underwater archaeologists have recovered artifacts that show this blending in everyday life, from the way buildings were constructed to the small personal items carried by its inhabitants. The city's layout itself, with its wide processional ways and central ceremonial spaces, was designed to accommodate this constant flow of people and ideas. Cheng stands as a powerful testament to the role of the ocean, not as a barrier but as a highway. It was a place where the deep-seated human drive for connection built a cosmopolitan center that thrived on cultural dialogue, a conversation whose echoes we can still hear beneath the waves. High in the thin air of the Peruvian Andes, a temple complex channels the voice of the mountains themselves. Chavin de Huantar was far more than a collection of stone buildings. It was a magnetic pole for an entire continent, drawing pilgrims from the steaming Amazon basin, the arid coastal deserts, and the surrounding highlands. These travelers did not come empty-handed. They brought with them the unique treasures of their homelands, transforming this spiritual center into a vibrant, ancient marketplace of both goods and ideas. Within its walls, archaeologists have uncovered spondylus shells, a radiant red treasure that could only be sourced from the warm coastal waters of Ecuador. They found obsidian, the volcanic glass essential for tools and ceremony, traced back to quarries deep in the Andes. The very ground of Chavin tells a story of convergence, where the ocean met the mountains through the hands of devoted travelers. But the true genius of Chavin lies in how it wove these disparate threads into a single, powerful tapestry of belief. The intricate stone carvings that adorn its walls feature a gallery of transformative beings, part jaguar, part eagle, part human. These same hybrid creatures appear in the art of cultures separated by vast jungles and impassable cordilleras. This was not a coincidence. It was a shared visual language, a set of spiritual concepts that resonated across incredible distances. The site's architecture amplified this unifying message through profound sensory experience. Its network of underground galleries, dark and narrow, would lead pilgrims to a central courtyard where a monolithic stone statue known as the Lanzon awaited. Engineers designed specialized air vents that, when wind passed through them, produced a roaring sound mimicking the powerful jaguar, a revered predator. In the echoing darkness, with the spirit's voice thrumming through the stone, a person from the coast and a person from the rainforest would share the same awe-inspiring moment. This was the secret to its widespread influence. Chavin de Huantar did not conquer through force, but through a compelling ideology that offered meaning and connection. It became a central node in a continental network because it provided something every community sought: a framework for understanding the world and their place within it. The exchange of exotic goods was secondary to the exchange of a common faith. People returned to their distant villages not just with new trinkets, but with new symbols, new stories, and a renewed sense of belonging to something much larger than their local world. The legacy of Chavin challenges our modern separation of the spiritual from the economic, revealing how deeply they were intertwined in the human past. It shows us that the most durable networks are often built not on trade routes, but on shared beliefs. From the high Andes, our journey takes us to the sun-drenched shores of the Indian Ocean. On the coast of what is now Tanzania, the island of Kilwa Kisiwani once hummed with a global conversation. Here, the monsoon winds carried ships from Arabia, India, and even China, making this African port a dazzling crossroads of continents. The ground of Kilwa is a tapestry woven with fragments of the world. Archaeologists sifting through the soil find delicate Chinese porcelain resting beside intricate Indian glass beads, all mingled with coins minted in distant Islamic caliphates. Each artifact is a silent witness to a thriving, multicultural society built on exchange. The island's heart was its great mosque, an architectural marvel constructed from carved coral stone. Its grand dome and meticulous masonry reflect a beautiful synthesis, blending African building techniques with Arab and Persian design principles. This was not mere imitation. It was the birth of a new, local identity forged from global connections. Local Swahili artisans were not passive observers in this network. They processed gold and ivory from the African interior, turning raw materials into coveted exports that traveled across the ocean. In return, they acquired foreign luxuries and, more importantly, new ideas that influenced their own art, language, and daily life. Kilwa's story powerfully reframes the African continent not as a land apart, but as an integral and influential player in a sprawling medieval world system. Its legacy challenges the very idea of isolated civilizations, proving that coastlines have always been places of meeting, not separation. This vibrant hub makes us wonder what other stories of connection are waiting to be uncovered where the land meets the sea. The legendary city of Ubar was long thought to be a mere myth, a mirage of poets and storytellers, yet the desert sands eventually yielded their secret, revealing a fortress that commanded the flow of one of the ancient world's most precious commodities, incense. Here, in the heart of the Arabian desert, the air itself was a form of wealth, thick with the scent of frankincense and myrrh. These aromatic resins, essential for religious rituals from Rome to the Indus Valley, transformed this remote oasis into a magnetic crossroads. Caravans laden with goods from Mesopotamia and the Mediterranean would converge at Ubar's gates, exchanging metals, textiles, and exotic woods for the sacred fragrances of the south. This was more than a simple marketplace. It was a strategic hub that connected entire continents. The city's formidable walls and deep wells were not just for defense, but for controlling a lifeline across an otherwise impassable sea of sand. How did such a vibrant center thrive in such a harsh environment? The answer lies in human ingenuity. The people of Ubar mastered the art of desert navigation, reading the stars and the dunes to guide their caravans along invisible highways. They did not just adapt to the arid landscape, they turned it to their advantage, creating a node of interaction where none should have existed. The artifacts found within its ruins, a piece of pottery from a distant coast, a seal inscribed with foreign symbols, tell a silent story of conversations that spanned thousands of miles. Ubar's legacy challenges our notion of empty spaces on the map, proving that even the most challenging terrains were woven with the resilient threads of exchange, where the trade of precious goods paved the way for a constant, quiet flow of ideas. Rising from the fertile floodplains of the Mississippi River, a city of earth and ambition once challenged the sky. Cahokia was not merely a large village, it was a monumental urban center whose scale would not be matched for centuries in North America. Its population, likely swelling beyond 10,000 souls, created a bustling metropolis that thrived on connection. The objects unearthed from its soil read like a map of the continent. Copper, painstakingly worked into ceremonial regalia, was sourced from the distant shores of the Great Lakes. Gleaming marine shells, used in intricate ornaments and ritual cups, journeyed up from the warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico. Sheets of shimmering mica, reflecting light in sacred spaces, were quarried from the ancient Appalachian Mountains. These were not random treasures, but the deliberate fruits of a vast and sophisticated trade network that bound the continent together. How did such a city emerge, and what force drew these materials from every corner of the land? The answer lies in its role as a central hub, a place of convergence where practical exchange blossomed into a profound cultural dialogue. The city's very design speaks of this outward gaze, its grand plazas capable of holding thousands, and its towering earthen mounds, including the colossal Monk's Mound, show a striking familiarity with architectural principles developed far to the south, in the vibrant heartlands of Mesoamerica. This was not simple copying, but an adaptation, a local interpretation of a broader American idea of sacred space and civic order. Cahokia was a true melting pot, a place where diverse groups from across the riverways and prairies would gather. They came for the commerce, yes, to trade their local goods for exotic materials, but they also came for the ceremonies that pulsed through the city's plazas. In these shared experiences, they exchanged more than objects. They shared technologies for farming and tool-making, and they wove together their beliefs, creating a new hybrid worldview. This vibrant center fundamentally challenges the old image of isolated, static indigenous societies. It reveals a dynamic world of interregional dialogue, where ideas flowed as freely as the rivers that carried the canoes. The legacy of Cahokia invites us to see the ancient landscape of North America not as a collection of separate tribes, but as a connected web, with this great city as one of its brightest, most influential nodes. Nestled within a mountain pass in modern Tajikistan, the ancient settlement of Sarazm functioned as a cultural and technological bridge. For centuries, this proto-urban center connected the nomadic pastoralists of the vast Eurasian steppes with the sophisticated agricultural societies to the south. Its strategic location was no accident. It was the very source of its prosperity. The ground here is rich with the remnants of advanced metallurgy, evidence of workshops that hummed with industry, transforming raw ore into gleaming copper and bronze. These were not simple tools for local use. The chemical signatures of Sarazm's metalwork have been identified in sites stretching across Iran and deep into South Asia, proving its products traveled along well-established trade routes. But the exchange was never one way. The beautiful pottery and intricate jewelry unearthed at Sarazm tell a story of artistic fusion. Local artisans incorporated the striking geometric patterns and symbolic motifs of the distant Bactria-Margiana archaeological complex, a powerful civilization to the west. This was not mere imitation, it was a creative dialogue, a blending of aesthetic languages that gave birth to a new, hybrid style unique to this crossroads. Sarazm's true legacy lies in this transmission of knowledge. It was a place where the practical needs of the steppe met the technological innovations of settled farmers, and the spark from that collision helped ignite the Bronze Age across the continent. The specialized techniques for smelting and alloying metals, perfected here in the mountain pass, did not stay confined. They spread, carried by traders and migrants, revolutionizing toolmaking and warfare from Europe to the Indus Valley. This site forces us to reconsider the very nature of innovation, suggesting that our greatest leaps forward have rarely happened in isolation. They are born at the intersections, in the bustling, connected places where different worlds choose to meet. Deep in the heart of the Sahara, a vast gallery of stone holds the memories of a green world. The caves of Tali are a library of human experience, their walls covered in thousands of rock art panels that tell a story of profound environmental and cultural change. This is not a single moment frozen in time, but a narrative unfolding over millennia, where the art itself documents a world in flux. Early images depict a land of lakes and rivers, with vibrant scenes of swimming hippos and herds of cattle being tended by graceful human figures. These pastoralists left a record of a lush Sahara, a world unrecognizable from the desert of today. As the climate slowly shifted and the waters receded, the art evolves. New scenes appear showing chariots drawn by horses, racing across landscapes that were beginning to dry. These chariots are not local inventions. Their design is distinctly Mediterranean, pointing to contact with societies far to the north. The people depicted also change, their attire and weaponry showing a stunning diversity, from the garb of sub-Saharan pastoralists to the shields and spears of North African warriors. This is the true magic of Tali. It captures not just a people but a crossroads. The caves were more than a canvas, they were a sanctuary. In this neutral, sacred space, travelers from different worlds would have met. They gathered for rituals, to seek shelter, and to share the news of their journeys. Around a fire, in the flickering light against these painted walls, a person from the Mediterranean coast might have described the sea to someone from the inland grasslands. They exchanged more than goods, they exchanged stories, myths, and ways of seeing the world. This cultural dialogue is etched into the rock. Specific artistic motifs, like a horned deity or a particular symbol for water, bear a striking resemblance to those found in the contemporary art of ancient Egypt and Nubia. This was not coincidence, but evidence of a shared symbolic language that stretched across North Africa, a language that transcended the vast and growing desert. The art of Tali challenges the idea of the Sahara as a barrier. Instead, it reveals the desert as a connective tissue, a space traversed by resilient networks that carried ideas as freely as they carried trade goods. This ancient gallery inspires us to look at other rock art sites around the globe not as isolated expressions, but as potential records of similar, forgotten conversations. A single bronze fastening pin tells a story of two worlds meeting. At Eland's Ox Meadows, on the windswept northern tip of Newfoundland, this small artifact speaks of a journey far beyond the Viking sagas. This is the only confirmed Norse settlement in North America, a cluster of sod-roofed houses dating to around the year 1000. The presence of this bronze pin, a material not worked locally at the time, points to sustained contact. Even more telling are the butternut seeds found at the site. These trees do not grow in Newfoundland. Their range lies hundreds of miles to the south. The logical conclusion is profound. The Norse did not simply land and remain isolated. They were guided. Indigenous knowledge, passed through encounters we can only imagine, directed these European explorers to resources far beyond their own coastal camp. This was not a one-sided arrival. It was a collaborative moment, a fleeting partnership etched into the archaeological record. The settlement itself is a testament to adaptation. The Norse built their traditional sod houses, but they also established a forge, bringing European ironworking technology to a new land. They were applying old skills to new challenges, a process that inevitably required local insight. This remote outpost represents the absolute farthest reach of Viking exploration, a bold leap across the Atlantic. Yet its true significance is not in its isolation, but in its connection. It demonstrates that even the briefest encounters can be culturally significant, leaving impressions that ripple through time. The discovery of Eland's Ox Meadows shatters the myth of a pre-Columbian world completely divided by oceans. It forces us to ask a thrilling question. If the Norse reached these shores, who else might have made similar voyages, their stories now lost to the waves? This single site opens a door to a much larger possibility, that the threads of cultural exchange were spun across waters we once thought impassable. A city built not on land but on a coral reef rises from the turquoise waters of the Pacific. Nan Madol is a labyrinth of over 90 artificial islets, a metropolis of stone constructed entirely by human hands off the coast of Pohnpei. Its very existence is a testament to a society that mastered its environment through collective effort. The foundation of this aquatic city lies in its colossal basalt columns, each one weighing many tons. These stones were not gathered locally. They were quarried from the opposite side of the main island, a monumental task that required a unified labor force and sophisticated engineering knowledge to transport them across the water, likely on great rafts. This was not the work of a small chieftain, but of a coordinated culture with a shared vision. Within the walls of these stone palaces, archaeologists have uncovered artifacts that speak of an even wider world. Intricate shell ornaments and distinct styles of pottery bear a striking resemblance to those crafted in the islands of Southeast Asia and the cultures of Melanesia. These were not just local trinkets, they were the material echoes of long-distance voyages. The architectural genius of Nan Madol itself, with its stacked log-like columns and enclosed tidal canals, hints at a design language shared with other Pacific cultures. How did such complex ideas travel across the world's largest ocean? The answer lies in the voyaging canoe, the spaceship of its era. These sophisticated vessels, capable of sailing vast distances using only the stars, currents, and bird migrations for navigation, connected islands separated by hundreds of miles of open water. They carried more than traders and chiefs. They carried architects, priests, and artists, creating a floating network of shared knowledge. Nan Madol stands as the ultimate symbol of this maritime collaboration, a place where the collective intelligence of the Pacific was harnessed to build something that defied the very sea it was built upon. It forces us to reconsider what isolated island societies were truly capable of when they chose to connect their minds and their resources. The stones of Göbekli Tepe speak a language of animals. In southeastern Turkey, a sprawling complex of massive, T-shaped pillars stands as a testament to a forgotten world of hunter-gatherer collaboration. This sanctuary is staggeringly ancient, built thousands of years before Stonehenge or the first pyramids of Egypt. Its construction was a monumental undertaking, demanding the coordinated labor of hundreds of people who had not yet invented farming or permanent settlements. Why would nomadic groups living off the land come together to erect such a colossal stone circle? The answer seems to lie in a shared spiritual vision. The pillars are a gallery of power and grace, carved with intricate reliefs of foxes, scorpions, vultures, and lions. These were not mere decorations, they were symbols from a shared belief system, a visual language that resonated across a wide region. Remarkably, this same symbolic repertoire appears on smaller artifacts at contemporary sites scattered throughout the Levant. A fox carved on a pillar in Turkey might find its echo on a stone plaque found hundreds of miles away. This was not a coincidence, it was a cultural network. Göbekli Tepe was likely a focal point for seasonal gatherings, a place where different bands of hunter-gatherers would converge for rituals and ceremonies. In these meetings, something profound happened. While uniting for a common spiritual purpose, they also exchanged practical knowledge. Around the central hearths of this sacred place, they would have shared techniques for crafting finer stone tools, new strategies for tracking game, and insights about which plants were safe to eat. This flow of information accelerated innovation. The site completely upends a long-held assumption about human history, that people had to first settle down and farm before they could build complex societies. Göbekli Tepe suggests the opposite, that it was the very act of coming together for a shared spiritual purpose that may have sparked the cultural revolution which later led to agriculture and settled life. The cooperation required to build this sanctuary forged a web of social and intellectual exchange, proving that the human drive to connect and create meaning is a powerful engine for change. This revolutionary finding forces us to look at other early sites with fresh eyes, wondering what other clues to prehistoric interconnectivity are still hidden in plain sight, waiting for their story to be told. The golden city of Timbuktu was not born in a single moment, but grew slowly from the sands of a prehistoric meeting place. Long before its grand universities and libraries rose, it was a simple seasonal camp, a crucial stop for the earliest trans-Saharan caravans. Deep archaeological excavations reveal a foundational layer of exchange, where blocks of salt carried on arduous journeys from the northern deserts were traded for raw gold dust sourced from riverbeds far to the south. This was not a medieval invention, but the continuation of an ancient pact between distant landscapes, a relationship forged over countless generations. The strategic location of Timbuktu, at the precise point where the Sahara meets the Niger River floodplain, made it a natural crossroads. It was here that the world of the desert nomad met the world of the settled farmer and the forest gold miner. This convergence of different environments and cultures created a unique intellectual climate. The city's later fame as a center of learning, with its vast collections of manuscripts on astronomy, law, and medicine, did not appear from nothing. It was built directly upon these prehistoric traditions of knowledge transfer. Berber traders from the north shared celestial navigation techniques for crossing the trackless dunes, while scholars from sub-Saharan Africa contributed deep understandings of local botany and healing practices. Arab merchants brought new systems of mathematics and writing, which blended with existing oral traditions. This fusion of knowledge systems created a vibrant, cosmopolitan society where ideas about governance, religion, and science were constantly debated and refined. Timbuktu stands as a powerful example of how simple prehistoric trade networks, born from basic necessity, can evolve over millennia into the very foundation of a complex civilization. Its enduring legacy challenges us to see the deep roots of our interconnected world, reminding us that the exchange of goods has always been, fundamentally, an exchange of human thought. The currents of the Karatoya River carried more than just water. They bore the weight of history itself, flowing past the ancient ramparts of Mahistanga. In what is now Bangladesh, this sprawling city emerged as one of South Asia's first great urban centers, its foundations laid in the 3rd century before the Common Era. While many ancient ports looked to the sea, Mahayasthangar drew its lifeblood from the river, becoming a pivotal crossroads for an entire subcontinent. The soil here is a chronicle of convergence, yielding terracotta plaques and polished stone beads from the mighty Mauryan Empire alongside exquisite gold coins stamped by the later Gupta dynasty. But the story does not end there. Among the local pottery, archaeologists have found distinctive ceramics and ornate bronze mirrors whose designs point unmistakably to mainland Southeast Asia. This was no isolated kingdom, but a dynamic river port whose wharves were stacked with goods from empires near and far. The city's own architecture speaks this language of connection. Its massive earthwork fortifications, designed to withstand siege, show a familiarity with defensive techniques used across northern India. Yet the common household pottery used by its citizens reveals a different influence, with shapes and decorative styles that echo the craft traditions of communities to the east and north. This was not a simple case of one culture imposing its will on another. It was a subtle, everyday integration where a family's cooking pot could be a blend of multiple artistic lineages. This cultural fusion found its most profound expression in the spread of ideas. Mahayasthangar functioned as a luminous gateway through which Buddhist philosophy and art flowed into the Bengal region and onward. The spiritual teachings that arrived on merchant vessels were embraced and then propagated, transforming the local religious landscape and creating a distinct regional identity that resonated for centuries. How did this inland city become such a powerful hub? The answer lies in its masterful geography. Positioned on a critical bend of the Karatoya, it commanded a natural highway that connected the Himalayan foothills to the Bay of Bengal. Goods from the Ganges plains could move east, while spices, woods, and gems from Southeast Asia could travel west and north, all funneling through this single strategic point. This constant flow of material wealth naturally spurred an exchange of intellect. Traders, monks, and scholars mingled in its markets and monasteries, sharing not only commodities but also concepts in mathematics, astronomy, and governance. The city's legacy demonstrates that some of history's most vital networks were not paved in stone, but flowed with water, binding diverse cultures along their banks and reminding us that civilization has always traveled with the current. Standing on the windswept cliffs of Malta, the stones of Haga Kim seem to absorb the very sunlight they were built to capture. This complex of megalithic temples, older than the pyramids, is far more than a local shrine. Its design reveals a mind that looked outward across the sea, participating in a vibrant Mediterranean conversation. The temple's main entrance is a masterpiece of celestial alignment, designed so that the rising sun on the summer solstice projects a beam of light directly through a small, carved aperture, illuminating a specific stone slab within the inner chamber. This precise astronomical event was not a unique discovery. Similar alignments are found in contemporary temples in Sicily and in North African sites, suggesting a shared, perhaps exchanged, body of knowledge about the cycles of the sun and stars. The builders of Haga Kim were clearly part of a community of thinkers who communicated their findings across the water. The evidence of this connection is not only written in the stones but also held within them. Excavations have uncovered obsidian tools, their chemical signature tracing back to the volcanic islands of Lipari north of Sicily. Small, decorative figurines and intricately carved pendants found at the site use styles and motifs that echo artifacts from Sardinia and the Italian mainland. These were not random trinkets washed ashore. They are the deliberate imports of a society actively engaged in a maritime network, trading for both practical resources and objects of spiritual significance. This flow of materials inevitably carried ideas. The unique cultic practices at Haga Kim, centered around corpulent female figurines and mysterious sleeping deities, show a fascinating blend. While the core veneration seems deeply local, elements of the rituals, such as specific altar forms and libation practices, bear a striking resemblance to those found in early religious sites on the Aegean Islands. It appears the Maltese did not simply copy foreign beliefs. They absorbed influences, blending them with their own traditions to create a spiritual practice that was entirely and uniquely their own. This enclave was a creative crucible, a place where incoming ideas were filtered through a powerful local identity. The people of Haga Kim were master navigators of both the sea and the soul, building a legacy that proves even the smallest island can be a major node in a vast web of cultural exchange. Their story compels us to look further, to other island cultures that thrived not in isolation, but through their deep and enduring connections to a wider world. High on a granite hilltop in southern Africa, the stone walls of Komi rise in elegant, terraced formations. This was the capital of the Torwa state, a civilization that mastered the art of building in harmony with a rugged landscape. Its architecture was both fortress and canvas, with retaining walls constructed using a distinctive chevron pattern, a decorative motif that would later become a hallmark of the even greater city of Great Zimbabwe. But these patterns were more than just beautiful design. They were a statement of identity and connection. The strategic placement of Komi allowed it to control a vital economic artery, the flow of gold and ivory from the African interior to the waiting markets on the Swahili coast. Within the remains of its elite enclosures, archaeologists have made finds that map a global network, unearthing delicate Celadon porcelain from the kilns of China and tiny, intricately wound glass beads that originated in India. Each fragment tells a story of caravans and dhows, of goods traveling thousands of miles from their point of origin to this powerful inland capital. How did a kingdom so far from the ocean acquire such exotic treasures? Komi did not exist in isolation. It thrived as a crucial hub in a relay system of trade, working through intermediaries who carried its wealth to the coast and returned with the luxuries and ideas of a wider world. This was not a one-way street of influence. The very layout of the city, with its separated residential areas and elevated ceremonial platforms, shows a fascinating synthesis. It blended local spiritual concepts regarding the sacredness of hills with architectural ideas that may have been inspired by contact with coastal Swahili towns. The rulers of Komi were not merely passive recipients of foreign goods. They were active curators of a hybrid culture, selectively adopting and adapting external influences to enhance their own power and prestige. The story of this highland fortress challenges the old narrative of a remote African interior. It reveals a dynamic society that was fully engaged in the economic and cultural dialogues of its time, proving that even the most landlocked powers could wield immense influence by mastering the networks that connected them to the globe. The volcanic cone of Rono-Roroku is a mountain that gave birth to giants. On the remote shores of Easter Island, this quarry was the sacred workshop for the iconic moe, the towering stone figures that stand as silent guardians of a unique culture. Walking through this landscape, you are surrounded by nearly 400 statues in every stage of creation, from mere outlines in the rock to completed colossi waiting for their journey to the coast. The sheer uniformity of these figures is the first clue to a deep cultural cohesion. Despite their immense size, each moe adheres to a strict set of artistic rules, a shared visual language that was understood and respected by every artisan who worked here. This was not a collection of individual artists expressing themselves. but a society working in concert to manifest a common belief. The petroglyphs carved into the quarry walls, depicting birdmen and other symbolic forms, echo motifs found across the Polynesian Triangle, a subtle hint that the knowledge which guided the first settlers to this island also informed their sacred art. The true marvel, however, lies not just in the carving, but in the movement. Transporting a multi-ton statue across miles of rugged terrain to its final platform, or ahu, was a breathtaking feat of engineering and social organization. It required the coordinated effort of the entire community, a system of ropes, levers, and rollers whose techniques were passed down through generations. This was a living chain of knowledge where the elders' understanding of physics and logistics was taught to the young, ensuring that the cultural mission could continue. Rono Roroku stands as a powerful testament to how a society, physically isolated in the vastness of the Pacific, maintained its identity not through external trade, but through an intense internal exchange of labor, skill, and memory. The quarry's silent, unfinished giants pose a poignant question. How do other isolated peoples use collective ritual and shared work to weave the fabric of their culture, ensuring that their unique voice is never lost to the waves of time? The silence of the Soup Valley holds an ancient melody. Here, the sacred city of Carol rises from the Peruvian desert, its stone plazas and pyramidal mounds composing one of the oldest urban symphonies in the Americas. While other early cultures were only beginning to experiment with village life, Carol was a full-fledged metropolis, a testament to a society that chose collaboration over conquest. The evidence for this peaceful prosperity is written in the very objects its people left behind. Archaeologists excavating the city have uncovered bundles of spondylus shells, vibrant red treasures that could only have been gathered from the warm coastal waters dozens of miles away. In the same layers, they found the remains of plants and medicinal herbs whose natural habitat is the dense Amazonian jungle on the opposite side of the Andes. This was not the haul of raiders, but the inventory of traders. The people of Carol were masters of ecological connection, maintaining robust trade networks that spanned mountains and seas, binding together the distinct resources of the coast, the highlands, and the rainforest into a single, thriving economy. The city's design reflects this harmonious vision. Its central core is dominated by massive, pyramidal structures built with carefully quarried stone, not for defense but for ceremony. Among them, sunken circular plazas create intimate spaces for communal gathering. This specific architectural feature, the sunken circular court, is not unique to Carol. It appears in other early sites along the Peruvian coast, suggesting a shared architectural language, a set of blueprints for sacred space that was exchanged and adapted along the same routes that carried the shells and the herbs. How did such a sophisticated city flourish for centuries without any signs of fortifications, weapons, or warfare? The answer seems to lie in a cultural focus on ritual and reciprocal exchange. The society's energy was directed toward maintaining balance with the natural world and with its neighbors, fostering a climate where knowledge and goods could flow freely. This model of development, centered on trade and shared ideology rather than military dominance, fundamentally challenges the long-held theory that civilization itself was born from conflict. Carol presents a powerful alternative narrative, one where the first cities grew not from the barrel of a spear, but from the open hand of commerce and a collective desire for meaning. Its enduring legacy encourages us to search the archaeological record for other peaceful crucibles, places where humanity's first urban spark was kindled not by force, but by the simple, profound power of cooperation. The circular walls of Archaim rise from the Russian steppe like a stone wheel, a perfect geometric form imposed upon a vast and open landscape. This fortified settlement, built by the Sintashta culture over 3,000 years ago, was far more than a simple village. It was a fortress of innovation. Within its concentric rings of earth and timber, a technological revolution was underway. The Sintashta people are credited with developing some of the earliest known spoke-wheeled chariots, a military and ceremonial innovation that would eventually spread across continents, from the empires of the Near East to the kingdoms of China. The discovery of elaborate chariot burials and sophisticated metalworking workshops at Archaeological points to a society that was not isolated, but intensely connected. The artifacts unearthed here tell a story of cultural fusion. Distinctive pottery styles found within the settlement show clear influences from both European forest dwellers to the west and Central Asian pastoralists to the east. This was a true melting pot, a place where different artistic traditions met and merged, but the genius of Archaeological is etched into its very blueprint. The settlement's two circular walls, each with a carefully aligned entrance, functioned as a massive astronomical observatory. On the solstices, the sun would shine directly through the main gate, illuminating precise points within the inner sanctum. This shared celestial knowledge, a preoccupation with the cycles of the sun and stars, echoes the practices we saw at Nabta Playa and other Bronze Age sites, suggesting a widespread, interconnected body of cosmological understanding. Archaeological was likely a major production center, its furnaces blazing day and night to produce bronze tools, weapons, and ornaments. These goods were not just for local use. The high-quality metalwork from this Ural mountain outpost became a coveted commodity, traded along the invisible highways of the steppe, facilitating an exchange that went far beyond material goods. This site demonstrates with stunning clarity how mobile pastoralists, often seen as peripheral to the story of civilization, were in fact the essential ligaments connecting the settled worlds of East and West. They were the original globalizers, carrying not only bronze and chariots but the very ideas that would shape the ancient world. The furnaces of Taruga glowed with a heat that could reshape civilization itself. In the heart of what is now Nigeria, the Nok culture mastered the transformation of earth into iron over 2,500 years ago. This was not a solitary discovery. The site of Taruga was a sprawling workshop, its very soil saturated with the residue of countless smelting operations. The sophisticated furnaces they built, with their intricate air vents and high-temperature capabilities, represent one of the most significant technological leaps in all of ancient Africa. But the legacy of this place is not written in iron alone. Scattered among the industrial remains are the fragments of exquisite terracotta sculptures, human and animal figures rendered with a striking artistic sensibility. These sculptures, with their bold, geometric features and elaborate hairstyles, display a visual language that would echo for centuries in the art of West Africa. How did such a distinct artistic tradition flourish alongside such advanced industry? The answer lies in connection. Chemical analysis of the metal residues points to a crucial ingredient, tin, which was not locally available. This essential alloy had to be acquired through trade networks that likely stretched across the Sahara, potentially linking the Nok with suppliers in North Africa and, indirectly, the Mediterranean world. Taruga was not an isolated genius. It was a vibrant hub where local innovation met long-distance exchange. The artisans here were not just smiths, they were nodes in a vast prehistoric information network. The knowledge of how to build a better furnace, how to achieve a purer smelt, was a form of intellectual currency. This technical know-how, combined with the unique artistic vision captured in their terracotta work, traveled. It moved along the same routes that carried the tin, passed from community to community, adapting and evolving as it spread. The story of Taruga compels us to rethink the very nature of invention. A technological breakthrough is rarely a single spark in the dark. It is more often a fire kindled in one place and then carried by the winds of human interaction to illuminate the world. What other ancient innovations began in such a workshop, their origins now forgotten, but their influence felt across continents? While the Maya are famed for their limestone cities, the ruins of Comalcalco tell a different story entirely. In the humid lowlands of Tabasco, this city was built not from stone but from fired brick, a choice that sets it dramatically apart from its inland counterparts. Each brick was molded from local clay and baked in kilns, a technological approach that echoes building practices found in other parts of ancient Mexico. This was not a random invention. It suggests a fascinating possibility that the architects of Comalcalco were aware of and adapted techniques from distant cultures, perhaps through contact with traders or travelers from central Mexico. The evidence for this wide-reaching network is embedded directly in the city's fabric. Archaeologists have unearthed brilliant green jade, its geological signature tracing back to the highlands of Guatemala, alongside razor-sharp obsidian whose chemical fingerprint points to sources near the great metropolis of Teotihuacan, hundreds of miles away. These materials did not arrive by chance. They were the deliberate cargo of a sophisticated trade system that linked the coastal Maya with the heart of Mesoamerica. Even the art carved into Comalcalco's bricks speaks this language of connection. The city's iconography is a gallery of cultural fusion, where classic Maya deities are depicted alongside motifs and symbols that resonate with the much older Olmec tradition and the powerful art style of Teotihuacan. It is as if the city's artisans were fluent in multiple visual dialects, weaving them together to create a distinct local identity. This creative blending was fueled by geography. Perched near the Gulf Coast, Comalcalco was a natural maritime gateway. Canoes laden with goods from the Yucatan Peninsula, the Isthmus of Tehuantepec, and beyond would have docked at its wharves, making the city a bustling hub where ideas flowed as freely as salt and cacao. Comalcalco stands as a powerful reminder that the ancient Maya world was not a monolithic empire, but a tapestry of regional innovation. Here, external influences were not merely copied, but were absorbed and reinterpreted, proving that the most enduring cultures are often those that confidently embrace the wider world. The high plains of Bolivia hold the stones of a forgotten capital. Tiwanaku, rising over 12,000 feet above sea level near the shores of Lake Titicaca, was a city of giants and a spiritual magnet for an entire continent. Its monumental architecture was not built to intimidate, but to inspire awe and unite a diverse population. The sheer scale of the Sun Gate, a single block of stone intricately carved with a celestial deity, and the massive, stepped form of the Acapona Pyramid reveal a profound understanding of engineering and astronomy. This knowledge was not developed in a vacuum. The precise stone-cutting techniques and urban planning principles found at Tiwanaku bear a striking resemblance to those used by the Wari civilization, their powerful contemporaries in the distant Andes. This suggests a vibrant intellectual exchange, a shared pool of architectural and scientific knowledge flowing between these two great powers. This cultural conversation is written in smaller, more personal artifacts as well. Elaborate snuff trays used for ceremonial rituals have been discovered here. These ornate objects, often crafted from wood or stone, are decorated with symbolic figures that appear hundreds of miles away, in regions that are now part of Peru and Chile. The intricate patterns woven into Tiwanaku textiles tell a similar story, their geometric designs and stylized animals echoing the artistic language of cultures separated by vast mountain ranges. These were not random similarities. They are the material evidence of a powerful cultural diffusion, a set of ideas and beliefs that resonated across the Andes. At its heart, Tiwanaku functioned as a great pilgrimage center. People from every corner of the highlands and coastal valleys would undertake arduous journeys to reach this sacred city. They came not as conquerors or the conquered, but as participants in a shared spiritual experience. In its vast plazas and temples, a farmer from a fertile valley might trade his produce for the vibrant feathers of a jungle bird offered by a traveler from the eastern lowlands. A metalsmith from the south could exchange his wares for the latest religious iconography carved by a master artisan. This was a constant, bustling exchange of both material goods and the intangible cargo of faith, story, and technological know-how. Even after the city's eventual decline, its influence did not simply vanish. The cultural legacy of Tiwanaku was absorbed, adapted, and carried forward. Centuries later, the Inca Empire would look to this ancient site as a place of origin, incorporating its symbols and even claiming its founding rulers as their own ancestors. The stones of Tiwanaku whisper a powerful truth, that a center of ideas can exert an influence far greater and more enduring than any empire built on force alone, its echoes shaping the world long after its streets have fallen silent. The island of an-Nar was a fortress of commerce built from the sea itself. Situated off the coast of modern Abu Dhabi, this Bronze Age hub was a vital link in a chain that connected the mighty civilizations of Mesopotamia with the sophisticated cities of the Indus Valley. Its very existence was predicated on connection, a fact immortalized in its unique stone architecture. The circular tombs and communal buildings that dot the landscape were not constructed from local materials, but from limestone blocks deliberately imported from the mainland. This was a society that invested immense effort to build a permanent, impressive presence, signaling its importance to every ship that approached its shores. Within these carefully built structures, the story of a globalized Bronze Age comes to life. Archaeologists have unearthed distinctive pottery from Dilmun, the ancient trading kingdom centered on modern Bahrain, resting beside intricately carved steatite seals bearing the script and animal motifs of the distant Indus civilization. These were not rare treasures, but the everyday evidence of sustained, routine contact. This was a port where merchants from different worlds met regularly, their goods and paperwork mingling in the bustling warehouses. The economic engine of this cosmopolitan outpost was twofold. The island was a center for copper trade, processing and exporting the metal that was the lifeblood of the age. More poetically, it was likely a base for the earliest pearl divers, individuals who braved the depths to retrieve a different kind of treasure from the sea. Both industries, copper for tools and weapons, pearls for luxury and status, were entirely dependent on foreign markets. They only made sense if the people of an-Nar could reliably exchange their local products for the grains, textiles, and finished goods they needed from afar. This small island success underscores a much larger truth, that the Persian Gulf was not a barrier but a bustling prehistoric highway. Its calm waters served as a liquid corridor, facilitating the movement of people, materials, and ideas for millennia. The discoveries at an-Nar inevitably lead us to wonder about the other ports and way stations that once dotted these shores, each one a silent partner in a conversation that shaped the ancient world. The rivers of southern Cambodia carried more than silt and water. They carried the seeds of kingdoms. At Angkor Boré, the earth holds the story of one of Southeast Asia's first great urban experiments, a city that grew from the rich mud of the Mekong Delta into a pivotal crossroads. Its very foundations were engineered for connection, a network of canals that channeled water for transport, defense, and agriculture. These waterways were the city's lifeblood, a sophisticated system of hydraulic engineering that hints at a dialogue with distant cultures, perhaps drawing inspiration from the advanced water management practices of India. The city's skyline was not defined by stone, but by durable brick temples and administrative buildings, their construction techniques echoing methods found far across the sea. Walking through the site today, you can still find the physical proof of its global reach. Archaeologists have unearthed delicate gold jewelry crafted in the distinctive style of Indian workshops, its intricate design speaking of a direct and sustained trade relationship. Even more startling are the Roman coins minted in the heart of the Mediterranean world, discovered nestled in the Cambodian soil. Each coin is a silent witness to a journey of thousands of miles, passed from hand to hand along the maritime Silk Road until it reached this bustling delta port. But Angkor Bore was far more than a simple marketplace. It served as a luminous gateway, a conduit through which the profound spiritual philosophies of Hinduism and Buddhism first flowed into Southeast Asia. Local rulers and elites did not merely adopt these foreign beliefs, they integrated them, blending the new deities and concepts with their own ancestral spirits and indigenous traditions. This fusion created a unique cultural synthesis, a spiritual language that would eventually shape the identity of an entire region for centuries to come. How did a city in a river delta become such a powerful crucible of ideas? Its location was its genius. Positioned at the nexus of maritime trade routes linking China and India, it became a natural harbor where merchants, monks, and diplomats mingled. This constant flow of people inevitably carried more than goods. It carried scriptures, artistic styles, and systems of law. The legacy of Angkor Bore challenges the very idea of a pure, isolated culture. It demonstrates that some of history's most enduring states were not built by rejecting the outside world, but by masterfully weaving external influences into the very fabric of their own emerging identity, creating something entirely new and resilient from the threads of global connection. The stones of Machu Picchu cling to the mountain with a grace that defies their weight. While this iconic sanctuary is a masterpiece of Inca engineering, its genius lies in a deeper legacy, built upon a foundation of shared Andean knowledge. The precision of its construction, with massive blocks fitted together without mortar, echoes building techniques perfected by earlier cultures like the Tiwanaku and Weri. Its most sacred structures, such as the Intihuatana stone, are meticulously aligned with the solstices, reflecting an astronomical understanding that was a common intellectual currency across the Highlands for centuries. This was not an isolated royal retreat, but a node in an ancient network. Excavations reveal a wealth of non-local treasures, from spondylus shells carried up from the distant Pacific coast to vibrant feathers brought from the Amazonian lowlands. These objects are the physical proof of a vast exchange system that connected vastly different ecological zones, a system the Inca Empire did not create, but expertly co-opted and expanded. As a royal estate, Machu Picchu was a gathering place for the elite, a secluded forum where provincial lords and imperial administrators would meet. In these breathtaking surroundings, they negotiated alliances, exchanged luxury goods, and inevitably shared the stories and innovations of their homelands. The sanctuary's enduring power stems from this layered history, a reminder that even the most spectacular imperial achievements are often brilliant syntheses of what came before. It prompts a humbling thought that the echoes we admire in a civilization's final form are the accumulated whispers of countless earlier conversations. The island of Motia was a fortress of fusion, a Phoenician stronghold off Sicily where the Mediterranean world converged. Within its protected harbor, ships from Egypt unloaded faience amulets beside vessels carrying fine Greek pottery and raw metals from the distant mines of Iberia. This was not a simple outpost for a single empire, but a true intermediary, a place where goods and ideas were constantly unpacked, examined, and repackaged for their next journey. The city's very layout speaks of this blended identity, with its grid-like streets reflecting Phoenician urban planning, yet its formidable defensive walls incorporating techniques observed from both Greek and local Sicilian neighbors. The most profound evidence of this cultural dialogue, however, lies in a quiet sacred space known as a tophet. Here, ceremonial urns contain offerings that respectfully merge Phoenician ritual with indigenous spiritual customs, creating a new, hybrid form of devotion unique to this island community. This was the genius of the Phoenician network. It did not merely transport goods, but acted as a circulatory system for innovation. Through ports like Motia, the concept of alphabetic writing, a revolutionary technology far simpler than complex pictographic systems, spread across the ancient world, fundamentally changing administration and record-keeping. The story of this island colony challenges the very notion of a pure cultural identity, revealing that the most dynamic and successful communities were often those that embraced their role as a crossroads. How many other foundational technologies began their journey to global adoption in such unassuming, multicultural harbors? The frozen tombs of the Prehistoric are a time capsule sealed by Siberian ice. High in the Altai Mountains, the permafrost acted as a perfect preservative, locking in a stunning record of nomadic life and its vast connections. Within these burial mounds, known as kurgans, archaeologists discovered mummies adorned with elaborate tattoos. These were not random markings, but complex scenes of mythical beasts and intricate patterns. The artistic style of these tattoos is a revelation, bearing a striking resemblance to imagery found on Persian artifacts and in early Chinese art. This was not a case of isolated expression, but of a shared visual language that flowed across the steppe. The bodies themselves became living canvases, carrying the art of distant cultures etched into their skin. This evidence of long-range contact is woven into the very fabrics found alongside the deceased. Brilliantly colored carpets and finely woven textiles display motifs of griffins and floral designs that would not be out of place in a Mesopotamian palace. These patterns traveled along ancient pathways, moving between nomadic groups and settled empires centuries before the Silk Road was formally named. The Prehistoric people were not just passive recipients of these ideas, they were active participants in a continental dialogue, curating and blending these influences into their own unique cultural identity. Ritual practices further cement this picture of a connected world. Among the grave goods, researchers found ceremonial equipment for inhaling cannabis, suggesting a shared shamanistic tradition that stretched across Eurasia. This points to an exchange that went far beyond material goods, encompassing spiritual beliefs and mind-altering substances used to bridge the worlds. The Prehistoric culture, defined by its mobility on horseback, served as a vital link. They were the carriers, the messengers who moved freely across the vast distances that separated the great sedentary civilizations. Their frozen burials demonstrate with stunning clarity how these seemingly separate worlds were, in fact, intimately woven together through trade, migration, and a constant, quiet exchange of the very elements that define a culture. The wind and sand that once buried Skara Brae also preserved a perfect snapshot of Neolithic community. On the Orkney Islands, this stone-built village emerges from the earth not as a primitive encampment, but as a place of remarkable comfort and foresight. Its interconnected stone dwellings, sunk into the ground for insulation, contained built-in stone beds, dressers, and even small tanks that may have held fresh limpets, a cleverly designed home from over 5,000 years ago. This was not the work of people merely surviving, but of a society that valued domestic harmony and shared a common blueprint for living. The evidence for their wider connections lies in their distinctive grooved ware pottery, whose unique style and decoration have been found in Neolithic sites across Britain. A pot shaped and patterned in Orkney could find its mirror in a settlement hundreds of miles to the south. This was not a local fashion, it was a shared cultural expression, a signal passing from one community to another across the sea. The village's sophisticated drainage system, a network of channels running beneath the stone pathways, points to an advanced understanding of community planning. This knowledge of managing water and waste was likely not invented in isolation, but exchanged and refined through contact with other groups. How did such innovation flourish on these remote, windswept islands? The answer lies in the sea. For the people of Skara Brae, the ocean was their highway. Their seafaring skills connected them to a web of communities, allowing them to exchange not only pottery styles, but also the very ideas that made their village a marvel of its age. Their story completely overturns the image of Northern Europe as a cultural backwater, revealing a vibrant, connected world where even the most seemingly isolated communities were active participants in a vast conversation. The enduring legacy of Skara Brae, saved by the very sand that once hid it, challenges us to look at other harsh environments not as empty spaces, but as potential keepers of our deepest, most interconnected past. The rose-red city of Petra was carved from a prehistoric crossroads. Long before the Nabateans raised their famous tombs, this was a place of meeting, with evidence of Edomite settlements laying the foundation for a trading empire. Its breathtaking rock-cut facades are more than architectural marvels. They are a testament to a mind that looked outward. The city's genius for surviving in the desert was not born in isolation. Its intricate network of channels, dams, and cisterns, a lifeline in the arid landscape, reflects knowledge acquired through sustained contact with the advanced water management techniques of Assyrian and Egyptian civilizations. This was not simple copying, but a brilliant adaptation, taking external ideas and refining them to master a uniquely challenging environment. Within the city's ancient layers, archaeologists have unearthed a world in miniature. Fragments of Chinese silk and intricate Indian beads rest beside pottery from the Mediterranean, mapping a transcontinental exchange that flowed directly through Petra's narrow Sick. This caravan city did not just sit on a trade route, it actively shaped it, serving as a neutral ground where goods from east and west could change hands. Its longevity as a hub, evolving through countless generations, demonstrates a profound truth. The most successful centers of exchange were not static museums of a single culture, but dynamic, evolving entities that constantly absorbed and reinterpreted the world around them. Petra's enduring legacy is its ability to remain a vital connective node for centuries, proving that the true strength of a network lies in its capacity for reinvention while never losing its fundamental purpose to bridge the spaces between worlds. 13,000 years ago, along the banks of the Nile, a community laid its loved ones to rest. The cemetery at Jebel Sahaba in Sudan is one of the oldest formal burial grounds ever discovered, a place that speaks to the very foundations of human society. Analysis of the remains tells a complex story, one that modern narratives often oversimplify. Some individuals show signs of hardship, perhaps related to tensions over access to water and food in a challenging environment. Yet this is only part of the picture. The same graves reveal something equally profound, evidence of healed injuries and careful burial practices that point to a culture capable of compassion and community support. This was not a place defined solely by struggle, but by the enduring bonds that held people together. The location itself was a strategic choice, Situated near the life-giving river, Jebel Sahaba naturally became a convergence point, a seasonal home for groups traveling from the deserts and the savannas. The artifacts found with the burials confirm this interconnected existence. Stone tools crafted from materials sourced hundreds of miles away lie beside the deceased, their chemical fingerprints tracing ancient paths of mobility and exchange. These were not isolated bands, but people who moved across a vast landscape, maintaining social ties and trade relationships that stretched far beyond their immediate horizon. The legacy of Jebel Sahaba is its powerful duality. It reminds us that the human story has always been woven from two essential threads: the instinct to protect one's own and the profound need to connect with others. This ancient riverside cemetery prompts a deep reflection that cooperation and conflict are not opposites, but intertwined forces that have shaped our social journey from its very beginning. How many other sites hold similar stories, waiting to reveal the delicate balance that forged our earliest networks? The hill of Gunung Padang rises from the Indonesian landscape like a terraced pyramid of stone, a silent sentinel holding secrets beneath its soil. This is not a single monument, but a complex layered cake of history, with each tier representing a different era of construction and a new wave of cultural influence. Geological surveys using ground-penetrating radar have revealed something astonishing: that the visible megalithic structures are merely the outermost layer, built upon much older, deeply buried foundations. The site appears to have been built and rebuilt over millennia, with each generation adding its own chapter to this sacred hill. The artifacts unearthed here, from distinct styles of pottery to finely worked stone tools, act as cultural fingerprints. They show clear artistic and technological links not only to neighboring islands in the Indonesian archipelago, but also to the distant mainland of Southeast Asia. This was not an isolated temple, but a point of convergence in a vast maritime network. The site's very placement was a deliberate act of cosmic alignment. Its terraces and standing stones are oriented toward surrounding volcanic peaks and calibrated to celestial events like the solstices. This shared attention to the sky and the earth reveals a common cosmological understanding, a unified worldview that connected the diverse cultures scattered across these islands. Gunung Padang was likely a regional center for pilgrimage and knowledge, a place where navigators, priests, and elders would gather. They would have exchanged more than goods. They would have shared stories of the stars, techniques for ocean voyaging, and rituals to honor the spirits of the land and sea. The ongoing scientific work at this site, using non-invasive technologies to peer into its hidden depths, demonstrates a powerful truth. Our understanding of the human past is not a closed book, but a living story, with new chapters being written by the very ground beneath our feet. This ancient hill reminds us that some of the most profound connections are not always visible on the surface, waiting for the right moment to share their story. The walls of Çatalhöyük were a living canvas. In this sprawling Neolithic village in Turkey, one of the first places where thousands of people chose to live together, daily life was painted in symbols. Inside the small, rectangular houses, vibrant murals depicted charging bulls, soaring vultures, and intricate geometric patterns. This was not random decoration, but a rich symbolic language, a visual conversation that may have drawn inspiration from artistic traditions in communities far beyond the village walls. The sheer consistency of these motifs across hundreds of homes suggests a shared belief system, one that was constantly reinforced and perhaps even imported through contact with other early settlements. The real engine of this connection, however, was a material that gleamed like black glass. The village sat near rich deposits of obsidian, a volcanic stone prized for its ability to be knapped into razor-sharp tools. This was not a resource hoarded for local use. Çatalhöyük became a production powerhouse, its workshops churning out blades and projectile points that were traded across vast distances. With every piece of obsidian that traveled, so too did the knowledge of how to work it. A specific technique for pressure flaking, mastered here, could be passed from one trader to another, spreading technological innovation along the same routes that carried the stone itself. This exchange was woven into the very fabric of the settlement. The village's unique layout, a dense honeycomb of houses with no streets, meant that entry was gained by climbing down a ladder from the roof. This architectural choice fostered a profoundly communal existence. Life unfolded on the rooftops, a shared landscape of terraces where people would have interacted constantly. It was on these elevated platforms that a neighbor might show a newly acquired shell from the Mediterranean, or a visiting trader would demonstrate a novel way to haft an obsidian blade. The design itself, with its emphasis on shared space and collective access, reflects a social model that may have been experimented with in other Neolithic towns, a fascinating parallel in community planning. Çatalhöyük illustrates a profound truth about early urbanism, that the simple act of living in close quarters, of sharing walls and rooftops, naturally accelerated cultural innovation. The constant, informal exchange between households, amplified by the flow of goods and people from the outside world, turned a cluster of mud brick houses into a crucible of human creativity. The sun-bleached stones of Gades hold the salt of countless voyages. Founded as Gadir by Phoenician explorers on the coast of modern-day Spain, this port was more than a trading post. It was a living laboratory of cultural fusion. Its deep water harbor was a strategic masterpiece, a gateway where the calm Mediterranean met the wild Atlantic. Within the city's archaeological layers, the story of this convergence is written in everyday objects. Fragments of finely painted Greek pottery rest beside amulets from Carthage and robust ceramics crafted by local Iberian communities. This was not a collection of foreign curiosities, but the integrated inventory of a city that thrived on its mixed identity. The very layout of Gades was a product of this dialogue. Its temples and docks were engineered using knowledge drawn from Phoenician naval architecture, Greek urban planning, and the practical wisdom of indigenous sailors who understood the local currents and winds. This synthesis of maritime traditions created a port that was uniquely suited to its role as a global crossroads. The economic engine of this cosmopolitan hub was the movement of essential goods. Ships laden with silver and copper from the Iberian interior would dock alongside vessels carrying prized salt from nearby marshes and olive oil from the Mediterranean basin. This exchange enriched not just the merchants but entire societies, introducing new technologies and food sources that transformed local economies. Gades challenges the simplistic narrative of colonial outposts. It was not merely an extraction point for a distant homeland, but a creative center where a new, hybrid culture was forged. The legacy of this Phoenician port is woven into the fabric of prehistoric Europe, a testament to the idea that the most enduring connections are those that allow for mutual transformation, where every arrival at the dock is also a beginning. The stones of Chichen Itza speak in multiple architectural languages. While its heart is undeniably Maya, the city's grand plazas and towering pyramids also echo with the voices of distant central Mexico. The iconic temple of Kukulkan, with its feathered serpent deities cascading down the balustrades, directly mirrors the religious iconography of the Toltec capital, Chala, hundreds of miles away. These are not vague similarities, but a deliberate integration of foreign symbols into the local spiritual landscape. The city's builders incorporated massive stone figures known as Atlanteans, which served as pillars, their rigid posture and distinct regalia being a hallmark of Toltec artistic tradition. This was more than just aesthetic borrowing. It was a profound act of cultural synthesis, where Maya cosmology and Central Mexican beliefs were woven together to create a new, more powerful state religion. The presence of a sprawling market complex and a sacred cenote, or natural well, filled with offerings from across the continent, confirms that this was a destination. Traders from the American Southwest brought turquoise, while merchants from Panama brought gold, their goods mingling in a bustling, cosmopolitan hub. This convergence of people and products naturally facilitated an exchange of intellect, most spectacularly embodied in the observatory known as El Caracol. Its unique circular tower, with narrow slits precisely aligned to the movements of Venus, demonstrates an astronomical precision that was likely refined through dialogue with other Mesoamerican sky watchers. Chichen Itza did not merely copy its neighbors, it curated the best ideas from a connected world, transforming them into a unique urban masterpiece that stands as a testament to the creative power of cultural convergence. A single oasis in the vast desert sands could rewrite the map of the ancient world. The story of Al-Ula in Saudi Arabia is one of survival and symbiosis, where the gift of water made it a beacon for travelers crossing an otherwise impassable sea of sand. This was not a lonely outpost, but a vibrant prehistoric crossroads, its very existence predicated on connection. The evidence is etched into the canyon walls, a sprawling gallery of rock art and inscriptions that document a continuous conversation over millennia. Here, the symbols of local tribes stand beside carvings made by travelers from the distant civilizations of Mesopotamia and the Levant. These were not random graffiti, but deliberate marks of presence, a way for different cultures to signal their passage and acknowledge a shared reliance on this life-giving sanctuary. The artifacts unearthed from the soil tell a similar story of fusion. Simple, practical pottery and stone tools found at the site show a clear blending of regional techniques with forms and decorative styles imported from far away. A local water jar might be shaped with a curve inspired by a Mesopotamian design, its familiar function now carrying a subtle, foreign elegance. This was the quiet, everyday result of cultural contact, where the most mundane objects became messengers of a wider world. Al-Ula's strategic power lay in its geography. It was a natural stepping stone, a vital node in networks that sprawled across continents, linking the resources of Africa with the markets of Asia and the innovations of Europe. Caravans laden with incense, metals, and textiles would converge here, their weary travelers and animals finding respite in the shade of the date palms. In this neutral, resource-rich space, the trade was not only in goods but in the very ideas that would shape emerging societies. The legacy of this desert oasis challenges our perception of barren landscapes. It reveals that these fertile pockets were not mere rest stops, but active, creative hubs where the threads of human civilization were continually woven together, proving that even in the harshest environments, the drive to connect will always find a way to flourish. The sophistication of the Jomon period blooms in the quiet soil of northern Japan. At Sannai-Maruyama, a sprawling settlement thrived for over 1,000 years, built not by farmers but by a community of hunter-gatherers. This was no temporary camp. The remains of hundreds of pit dwellings, deep storage pits, and a massive longhouse stretching nearly 100 feet speak of a society that chose to build a permanent home together, challenging everything we assume about a nomadic lifestyle. Their world was one of abundance and intricate social bonds, a complexity we are only just beginning to appreciate. The artifacts they left behind are whispers of a wider world. Beautiful jade ornaments, polished to a deep green luster, were crafted from stone whose source lay hundreds of miles away. Elegant lacquerware, a technology requiring immense skill and patience, has also been found, its decorative styles hinting at possible exchanges with communities on the mainland. These were not mere possessions, they were statements of identity and connection, proving that even in prehistoric Japan, no society was an island. The true genius of Sannai-Maruyama, however, lies in its organization. The settlement was carefully laid out, with distinct areas for residence, craft production, and communal rituals. This deliberate planning reflects a shared body of knowledge about how to live together sustainably. They managed the rich local resources of the forest and the sea with such skill that they could support a large, settled population for generations without relying on agriculture. How did they achieve such stability? The answer appears to be profound interaction, both within their community and with distant neighbors. The large longhouse likely served as a central gathering place where stories were shared, disputes were settled, and knowledge about tool-making and food preservation was passed down. This constant internal exchange, combined with the flow of ideas from outside, allowed them to refine their technologies and social structures. Sannai-Maruyama stands as a powerful testament to an alternative path to civilization. It demonstrates that societal sophistication did not have to follow a single, predetermined course from hunting to farming. Here, a resilient and innovative culture achieved remarkable complexity by mastering its environment and nurturing a vast network of relationships, offering a quiet but profound re-evaluation of what was possible in the ancient world. The scent of cedar once perfumed the entire eastern Mediterranean, a fragrance of wealth and connection that emanated from the ancient port of Byblos. Perched on the coast of Lebanon, this city is a living chronicle, its foundations reaching back over 7,000 years into the heart of the Neolithic. It was not gold or gems that first made its fortune, but the towering cedar trees of its hinterlands. This wood was a material of legend, strong, fragrant, and resistant to rot, making it the ultimate luxury for the pharaohs of Egypt and the kings of Mesopotamia, who used it for temples, palaces, and sacred boats. A single timber felled in the Lebanese mountains and shipped from Byblos could represent a king's divine right to rule 1,000 miles away. The city became the indispensable supplier, its economy and identity forever intertwined with this single, magnificent resource. Within the stratified layers of the city, this long-distance dialogue is recorded in miniature. Archaeologists have unearthed Egyptian scarabs, small amulets carved in the shape of a beetle, resting beside intricate Mesopotamian cylinder seals, each one used to mark ownership and authority. These were not the spoils of raid or conquest, but the personal effects of merchants and diplomats, the quiet clutter of a cosmopolitan port. A Mesopotamian merchant might have sealed a contract for a shipment of cedar with his finely carved stone cylinder, while an Egyptian official offered a scarab as a token of goodwill. These objects are the physical proof of relationships that endured for centuries, a sustained conversation between civilizations that saw Byblos as a trusted and crucial partner. This constant, fertile exchange of goods naturally cultivated an even more revolutionary export, the alphabet. The bustling docks of Byblos were a linguistic crossroads, a place where Egyptian hieroglyphs, Mesopotamian cuneiform, and a dozen local dialects collided daily. The complexity of these existing writing systems with their hundreds of symbols was ill-suited for the fast-paced needs of commerce. Out of this practical necessity, an innovation was born. Scribes in the region began to simplify this cacophony of signs, distilling them into a set of around 24 characters, each one representing a single consonant sound. This was the Proto-Canaanite script, the direct ancestor of the Phoenician alphabet that would later spread across the Mediterranean. It was a democratization of writing, transforming it from a specialized skill of priests and royals into a tool accessible to merchants and sailors. The economic network that made Byblos rich became the very vehicle for spreading this new technology, a system of writing so efficient it would form the basis for Greek, Latin, and ultimately the words you are hearing right now. The story of Byblos beautifully illustrates how the most profound intellectual breakthroughs can grow from the simple, everyday needs of trade and connection, reminding us that some of our most fundamental tools were forged not in isolation, but at the busy intersection of the world. The Highlands of Oaxaca cradle a city carved directly from the mountain peak. Monte Alban was not built on a convenient plain, but deliberately leveled and reshaped, its grand plaza a flattened crown overlooking the surrounding valleys. This was the nerve center of the Zapotec world, a capital that drew its strength from a remarkable synthesis of ideas. From its very inception, the city's architects showed an awareness of a wider Mesoamerican conversation. The early stone carvings, known as the danzantes, depict figures in contorted poses, a style of art that echoes the much older Olmec tradition from the distant Gulf Coast. It was as if the founders of Monte Alban were acknowledging the deep cultural roots of the region, weaving ancient symbols into the fabric of their new urban experiment. This was not mere imitation, but a deliberate act of connecting their identity to a shared, prestigious past. The city's growth was fueled by its command of regional exchange. Its tombs and temples have yielded brilliant green jade from the Motagua River Valley in Guatemala, gleaming obsidian from central Mexican sources, and iridescent shells from both the Pacific and the Caribbean. These were not random treasures, but the curated wealth of a city that sat at the crossroads of vital trade routes, a hub that managed the flow of luxury and ritual goods across the land. The true evidence of its connected nature, however, is written in stone. The glyphs and calendrical inscriptions found on its monuments form part of a shared Mesoamerican writing system, a complex language of time and power that would be understood by elites from the Maya lowlands to the high plateau of central Mexico. This was a common symbolic vocabulary, a way of recording history and asserting authority that transcended local dialects and political boundaries. How did a single city become such a powerful unifying force? Monte Alban functioned as a neutral, elevated ground, a political and religious capital that brought together the diverse and often competing chiefdoms of the Oaxaca valleys. By integrating the artistic styles, religious motifs, and economic networks of its neighbors, and even distant predecessors, it forged a cohesive Zapotec identity that was both locally rooted and globally aware. Its legacy challenges the idea of the isolated city-state, revealing that the most enduring early states were those that mastered the art of cultural integration, fostering a connectivity that turned a mountaintop into a magnet for the entire region. That same mastery of the ocean carried voyagers to the most remote islands on Earth. On the cliffs of the Marquesas, the settlement of Lipo stands as a testament to this incredible journey. This was not a place stumbled upon by chance, but a deliberate destination, a node in a vast Pacific network. The stone tools and fishhooks uncovered here are more than simple artifacts. They are pages from a shared technical manual. Their distinct forms and manufacturing methods show a clear continuity with tools found in Samoa, the Society Islands, and beyond. A fisherman at Lipo was using technology virtually identical to that of a craftsman thousands of miles away, a silent agreement on the best way to shape a hook or carve an adze. This was not isolation, it was a conscious maintenance of cultural standards across an immense aquatic world. The choice of location itself reveals a deep, transferred wisdom. Perched on a coastal terrace, Lipo was perfectly positioned to access both the rich offshore waters and the sheltered valleys inland. This specific knowledge of how to read a coastline for optimal living, understanding tides, currents, and resource availability, was a form of intellectual cargo carried in every voyaging canoe. Lipo almost certainly functioned as a vital stopover, a place where great double-hulled canoes laden with precious cargo would rest and resupply. In this sheltered bay, crews from different island groups would meet. They exchanged the very foundations of life, tender breadfruit seedlings, precious breeding pairs of pigs and chickens, and the cuttings of medicinal plants. With these living treasures came the stories, the chants, and the navigational secrets that made such journeys possible. The true legacy of Lipo is this intangible heritage. It demonstrates that the Polynesian world was not a scattering of lonely islands, but a tightly woven constellation, its cultures bound together by the relentless courage of navigators who could read the stars, the waves, and the flight of birds. Their achievement forces us to reconsider the very meaning of distance in the ancient world, revealing a network so resilient it thrived across the greatest expanse of water on the planet. The dust of the Silk Road could not obscure the deeper history of Merv. In the heart of Turkmenistan, this legendary oasis was a crossroads for millennia, its foundations laid not by medieval merchants, but by Bronze Age traders who first recognized the strategic power of this location. Excavations have peeled back the layers of time to reveal a city that was always a masterful intermediary. Within its oldest quarters, archaeologists have uncovered delicate Indus Valley seals resting beside Mesopotamian cylinder seals and distinctive pottery from the nomadic cultures of the vast Eurasian steppes. These objects were not isolated finds, but the integrated inventory of a place that thrived on its connections. The city itself was a living archive of borrowed genius. Its formidable fortifications, designed to withstand siege, showed clear influences from Persian military architecture. Yet its most vital feature was its sophisticated water system, a network of canals and underground channels known as qanats that reflected engineering principles honed across the arid landscapes of the Middle East. This was not simple imitation. It was the practical wisdom of a people who curated the best ideas from every traveler, adapting them to create a sustainable metropolis in the desert. Through Merv's bustling markets flowed the wealth of continents, textiles from China, metals from the Iranian plateau, and hardy agricultural products from the steppes all changed hands, enriching not just the local rulers but every culture involved in the relay. A single bolt of silk passing through this hub might be bartered for Central Asian horses, which were then traded for Indian spices, each exchange adding layers of value and meaning. How did a single city maintain such a pivotal role for thousands of years? Its location was its destiny, a fertile island in an arid sea that naturally channeled the flow of goods and ideas between the settled empires of the West and the mobile cultures of the East. The enduring story of Merv invites a quiet reflection on the timeless nature of human interaction, reminding us that the most vital places on the map are not those with the most resources, but those that choose to build bridges between worlds. These scattered whispers from 40 forgotten sites now form a single, undeniable chorus. The story they sing is not one of isolated genius, but of a world intricately linked by the quiet, relentless work of exchange. A common rhythm pulses through these places, a shared heartbeat of prehistoric globalization. It was a world where a shell from a warm sea held as much value as a block of salt from a desert mine, where the secret of smelting metal was a treasure to be carried across mountains, and where a story about the stars told in one language could be understood in the gestures of another. The movement of luxury goods like jade and lapis lazuli created bonds of status and trust between elites, while the sharing of practical technologies, from the spoke-wheeled chariot to the ocean-going canoe, lifted entire societies. Artistic styles and spiritual beliefs did not remain confined, but blended at these crossroads, creating new, hybrid traditions that were richer than their original parts. The map of this ancient network was not drawn by kings, but by the land itself. Great rivers like the Nile and the Mekong acted as liquid highways. Coastlines became welcoming shores for maritime adventurers. And in the heart of a barren desert, a single oasis with a freshwater spring could become a glittering hub, its value measured not in gold, but in the simple, profound gift of water for a thirsty caravan. This constant, multifaceted dialogue was not a sidebar to human history. It was the main event. It was the engine of progress. When a drought struck one region, connections to another could provide a lifeline. When a new tool was invented in a mountain workshop, its benefits could ripple across a continent, helping communities adapt and thrive. The resilience of our ancestors was rooted in their relationships, in the vast safety net of knowledge and resources they had woven together. Recognizing these deep patterns changes everything. It allows us to see the roots of our modern, interconnected world not in the silicon chip, but in the stone blade and the clay pot. It reveals a fundamental truth about our species, that our greatest strength has always lain in our capacity to reach out, to trade, to learn, and to create something new from the meeting of different minds. This legacy of connection, etched into the very soil of our planet, prepares us for a final, humbling realization about the journey we have all shared. Our journey across these 40 forgotten sites reveals a world already humming with connection long before our history books suggest. We have walked through the incense-filled air of Ubar, navigated the ocean highways with the Polynesians, and stood in the stone circles of Göbekli Tepe. In every corner of the globe, the evidence points to a single, profound truth. Ancient societies were not isolated islands of culture, but vibrant participants in a vast prehistoric web. They traded more than shells and stones. They exchanged the very essence of their being. A new way to chart the stars from the deserts of Nabta to Playa could find a home in the Highland observatories of the Andes. A revolutionary technique for smelting iron, born in the workshops of Taruga, could travel along invisible highways to transform distant lands. Artistic motifs, like the powerful feathered serpent, wove their way from central Mexico into the heart of the Maya world at Chichen Itza, creating a shared spiritual language across thousands of miles. These interactions did more than just spread technology and art. They wove a fabric of shared experience. A farmer in the Indus Valley, a pastoralist on the Eurasian steppe, and a chief in a Mississippi River city were all, in their own ways, part of a conversation that spanned continents. They may never have met, but the objects they touched and the ideas they cherished passed from hand to hand, creating an unspoken kinship. This deep-seated human drive to reach out, to trade, and to learn from one another is not a modern invention. It is the very bedrock of our collective story, a legacy of resilience and innovation written not in grand declarations, but in the silent, enduring language of archaeology. This tapestry of connection invites us to see our own world with new eyes, to recognize that the networks we navigate today are simply the latest expression of an ancient, enduring human impulse. We invite you to share which of these sites resonated most with you in the comments below, and to join us as we continue to uncover the hidden stories that bind our past, our present, and our future.